welcome to the Freeman Perspective. This is a show where we look at the players behind the players, the societies with secrets, the societies behind the secret societies. And to this end, I have invited Eric John Phelps, who has done deep researches into the Jesuit Society. And we might just find out who exactly is master of our president. So, Eric John Phelps has written a great book known as The Vatican Assassins, and it outlines the Vaticans from their conception up to the death of John F. Kennedy and their involvement in this. So welcome to the show, Eric.
A pleasure to be with you, Freeman, and your listeners tonight.
It's fantastic to have you. Now, let me just give you an idea of where I'm at. I've been looking at this picture of the secret societies. My father was a worshipful master for the Freemasons. I've noticed that almost over half of our presidents have belonged to the Freemasonic order, and I'm really curious as to whether or not there was ever a good Freemason and that they were changed over, taken over, or if it's always been just this Masonic conspiracy overrun by yet, as you might point out, by another secret society. What do you have to say about the creation of America and its roots in secret societies?
Well, there's a lot of controversy over that right now. My position is that the original republic, or the Confederate or Federal Republic of the United States, or of these United States of America, created in 1787, was a combination of 13 sovereign states that were historically white Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, and Baptist, that the peoples of those states, 98% of them were Protestants or Baptists, according to Bancroft in his History of the United States. It's a 10-volume set. It's in Volume 3. And therefore, the founding of the United States was founded upon biblical principles, and the law we were given was the English common law, and the whole concept of declaring independence from King George III, who was most assuredly controlled by the Jesuits. That whole concept was taken from the Dutch Republic when they declared their independence from Spain, and then they had to wage a civil war for 80 years before they finally got their liberty. So I'm of the position that the United States of America, although there were some evil Freemasons involved, like Thomas Jefferson and Tom Paine and Benjamin Franklin, that there were some nominal Freemasons involved that were really not dyed-in-the-wool practicing Freemasons, like George Washington, who did not go into a Masonic lodge but once or twice in the last 30 years of his life, according to a letter that he wrote that I have in my book. And so the men that were responsible, the leaders in creating our country, were not only the preachers like Whitefield and Jonathan Edwards and Samuel Davies and Timothy Dwight and others, but it was Bible-believing men like George Washington, who was baptized by one of his captains, Pastor John Gano, who was a pastor of a Baptist church in New York, and he baptized George Washington in the Hudson River after the war. And then also you have James Madison, who was also a Baptist Calvinist, who wrote and gave us the Bill of Rights on the insistence of Virginia Baptist pastor John Leland when he met Madison. So yes, the founding of America, I believe, was a work of God. Furthermore, it would have never happened had not there been the first great Masonic schism in about 1750, where Masonry began to be broken up and disunited, and then you have the suppression of the Society of Jesus by the Pope in 1773 with the famous bull Dominic Ac Redemptor Noster. So with those factors involved, coupled with the fact that the colonies were really a place of escape for the Protestants and Baptists of Europe for about 200 years, I do believe that America was a work of the Lord in giving his church some respite after many years of persecution.
All right. I myself was not raised with a religion. I guess coming from a Freemasonic family or whatever, my family was not involved in religion whatsoever. So I don't completely understand the schism that's going on between the Vatican and the Reformation.
Oh, okay. The papacy was all powerful. the height of its power was in about the 13th century. There's a book that the Jesuits backed several years ago called The 13th Century, the Greatest of Centuries, when Pope Innocent III, that demon pope, was the most powerful monarch in the world. He massacred the Bible-believing Ebigenses of France. He set out to kill all the Waldenses with the French army. In the Dark Ages, the popes always controlled the kings, and then the kings controlled the armies. The kings held their title to their throne by virtue of privilege granted from the pope. And because of this, then the king had to uphold the pope's canon law. If he refused to uphold the canon law, which involved the extirpation of heretics, the killing off of anybody in your realm who believed the Bible and refused to serve the pope, then that king could be removed and another king could be appointed to take his place. So the pope ruled all the monarchs of Europe and other monarchs, including the monarchs of China for some time and Japan. And any monarch who sought to break the Pope's temporal power was at war with the Pope. And when the Reformation came by, when the Lord sent that in 1517 with Martin Luther, the Reformation attacked these doctrines that Rome had so promulgated in its canon law with his 95 Theses when he nailed that to All Saints Church in Wittenberg. And with that, people began to realize that they did not need the papacy for salvation, that they did not need the priests for salvation. And when the spiritual power of the Pope began to be broken over Germany and Holland and England and Scotland and other countries, then the Pope's political power or his temporal power began to be broken, which gave birth to what we would call today national sovereignties. So the Protestant Reformation is really the foundation for any political freedom in the world today, the creation of national sovereignties, a middle class, what is left of true political liberty in the world today.
Curious that. Well, now as I watch, we're watching this infighting or this war, and the most that I've been able to get out of it as looking into the Jesuits and the Freemasons was that this belief that mankind had a hand in God's work. And it seemed that that was the schism that has been kind of fueling this fire, that one believes that mankind is inherently sinful, and the others believe that through good works you could actually raise God's status. Is this right?
Very good question, Freeman. The Jesuits are the masters of free will. It's called Molinaism. It was first promulgated by Pelagius, and then that was called Pelagianism. Then the Jesuits further championed that with Louis Molina, who is one of their foremost moral theologians. And prior to that, of course, Thomas Aquinas, the angelic doctor, in his Summa Theologica, championed free will, that the reason of man is not fallen. He would agree that man is a sinner, but his reason is not fallen, and therefore by man's reason he can reason himself to know God, which of course is not a biblical truth. So the Jesuits with Aquinas, with Pelagius, with Molina, with Sarez, and a host of their other moral theologians, I call them immoral theologians, all champion the doctrine of the free will of man and that man has a hand in his salvation. And that doctrine is set forth and championed in the Jesuits' Counter-Reformation doctrine called the Council of Trent. And so, of course, we Bible-believing people